The Toronto Blue Jays win in walk-off fashion against the Seattle Mariners despite getting no hit through 6 2/3 innings by Easton McGee, and they had another great outing from Kevin Gausman. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse, and it was never in doubt. The Blue Jays got no hit through 6 2/3 innings by Easton McGee, a guy that we've never heard of, a guy that we couldn't even get information of before this game even started, and he just absolutely carved up that Jays lineup. But they found a way to win, which is something that they've been doing recently in this hot stretch of play, and what a game, what a way to win.
Yeah, the sixth straight win, and we joked in the pregame that because it's a no-name pitcher, the Blue Jays always struggle against them, and they definitely did today. But before we do get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're super close to 7,000, so if you hit the button, it would mean the world. But let's get into it. Like you said, the Blue Jays walk-off win, and it was a very interesting game to watch. It was fun. I don't mind pitcher duels once in a while, especially because our offense has been doing pretty good recently. But before we do get into some analysis, we'll just show you guys, and we'll be quiet for a second and let you enjoy this great call by Dan Shulman for the walk-off clip in case you missed it.
Line drive to right, and he wins the ball game for the Blue Jays.
So it was, you saw Daulton Varsho, who's 0 for his last 18 or 19 at the time of that. They walked Matt Chapman intentionally to get up to Daulton Varsho, and he laced the first pitch. What did you see out of the Blue Jays today? And you can touch on the walk-off as well.
I mean, the offense was stale. They were cold all game long, and they just couldn't figure out Easton McGee. I'm already forgetting his name, and he just absolutely shoved against the Toronto Blue Jays lineup that has been on fire as of late. The approach was not good. They were very impatient at the plate, but it doesn't matter. They ended up winning the game, and the result is the only thing that does matter at the end of the day. And you got to feel good for Daulton Varsho. There's been a lot of talk about him and his struggles early on in the season. I still don't think that's going to cure whatever's been going on early on in those first 20-something odd games, but it's a step in the right direction. It was a high fastball, which he has been struggling on, and he absolutely laced it to right field. An absolute rope off the bat of Daulton Varsho, and that's a great spot for you to be in if you're struggling. The bases loaded, no outs, in a very high leverage situation. They have nowhere to put you. You know that you're going to get a strike. You know that you're going to get a good pitch to hit. And I was super happy to see that ball come off his bat, and super happy to see yet another Jays victory.
Yeah, especially after they walked Chapman to get to him. So I'm sure he wasn't too happy about that, but I'm sure he understood it because he's been ice cold. And I don't know, he looked very, very good. And touching on some of the other hitters today, and like you said, we were no hit through over half of the game. So George Springer went hitless, Bo Bichette went hitless. Vladdy did get a single in the bottom of the 10th there, but Luis Rivera, shout out to him for stopping Bo Bichette. That helped us win the game. They touched on that after. Matt Chapman was the only person today who really had a great day at the plate. And then, of course, Daulton Varsho. And if you look at that, a lot of zeros along the board for hits. But did anyone else particularly impress you today from the hitting staff? Obviously, there was slim pickings there.
Well, who impressed me today was Easton McGee, and I can't say his name enough. I can't talk about him enough, because to do that in your first career major league start, to come into the Rogers Center in front of a sellout crowd and neutralize that lineup, and I was kind of rooting for him towards the end of the game. I wanted him to go out there and silence those hitters. The Jays have been on a crazy run as of late, five wins in a row, and I think they were kind of due for the loss, which explains the performance coming out of the gate today. But they found a way to win, which was great to see. And shout out to Easton McGee once again. It won't be the last time you hear his name, because he was very good today. And although his stuff doesn't jump out at you, he's not 95 plus on the radar gun. He was filling up that strike zone and giving those Jays hitters fits, and it was a pleasure to watch, just as a baseball fan in general.
Yeah, you love to see that for any young pitcher. And let's touch on a pitcher again, which is Gausman, and we have the title there, Gausman Cy Young, and the way he's pitching now, he's definitely in the conversation, and this chapter will just be focused on him for a little bit. We'll touch on the bullpen right after this, but looking at his stat line now, he went 7 innings, gave up 6 hits, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts, and through the first few innings of the game, he was struggling a little bit, got out of a couple of jams. He, of course, had that great pickoff. He just let some hits walk. What were your thoughts on Kevin Gausman today? He ended up being very, very dominant, but he did struggle a little bit through the first couple innings.
Can we get this guy some run support, please?
No.
Please, for the love of God, can we get Kevin Gausman some run support? Because he just went 7 scoreless innings with 13 strikeouts, which is a career high for him, by the way, and he gets a no decision. No decision. I think Eric Swanson
Eric
gets the
Swanson.
win for that. And of course, Kevin Gausman has nothing to show for yet another dominant outing. And we put this title, Kevin Gausman Cy Young, for a reason. I think he's been the third best pitcher in the American League so far this year. And you could even argue he's been the second best behind Garrett Cole and just ahead of Luis Castillo. So he should be in the mix for that Cy Young award towards the end of the season if he does keep up this pace. But he's leading the league in strikeouts. He doesn't walk anybody. He's still getting unlucky with the batting average on balls in play, but that's just the luck that Kevin Gausman has had. And of course, he got drilled by a comebacker today and stayed in the game through 25 pitches after he got drilled. So he's just an absolute horse. He's been so good this year for the Toronto Blue Jays. And every outing, he just gets better and better. And realistically, he's had one bad inning all season. Not even a bad outing, one bad inning.
Yeah, literally just, well, I was going to mention the same thing. He had one bad, I guess, technically start, but it was just an inning that he ended up blowing up in. And you can look at him now in case you missed the game. His splitter was working, his fastball was working, and they mentioned the broadcast, and it was pretty visible as well that his velocity was up. It was averaging above 95 miles per hour, and he had, as you can see there, painted 98 miles per hour in the corner, but he's been altering his velocity a bit throughout the season, which tends to have the average, of course, a bit lower, but today he was just straight gas, averaging around 95, touched 98, and he was, his splitter was dominant, his fastball was dominant, and in general, the hitters really didn't stand a chance after that third inning, even after he got laced with the comebacker into his leg.
I just want to acknowledge how lucky the Blue Jays are to have this guy on their team. He's so good. He's so talented. And I've been on record saying he's the most talented pitcher, or probably even the best pitcher that the Jays have had since Roy Halladay. And he made me look stupid after that one inning in Houston, because that's when I proclaimed him to be the next one up. But ever since then, I mean, he's just been lights out, and ever since he started his career in a Blue Jay uniform, he has been lights out. The strikeout stuff is something that I have never seen. Probably the last time we've seen a guy strike out this many hitters is maybe David Price in that half season that he was here in Toronto. So he's been just a joy to watch, and I wish he didn't strike so many guys out so he can pitch all 9 innings, because I think that's what it takes for him to actually get a W on his record.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. And again, the pitcher that Peters watched regarding the Roy Halladay comment, not a bunch of the people from the 1990s. But
yes,
let's get into the bullpen a little bit here. Our bullpen is on fire, and that's back-to-back games now where they've come out and shut them down and given up no runs. Yesterday they had, I believe, 8 strikeouts. No runs today. It's more of the same. An excellent call by John Schneider to use Zach Pop there in the, I believe it was the 8th inning, and he just set him down. He's been unbelievable, and he's starting to get used in higher leverage spots, which is crazy and great, because at the start of the year, he was the last guy who made the rotation, or the bullpen. Jordan Romano, phenomenal. And Eric Swanson, he has just been on fire against his former team. Struck out the side, gave up the 1 walk. Anything you want to touch on here with the bullpen? They've just been unbelievable. And Eric Swanson is probably our best reliever right now, alongside Jordan Romano.
Yeah, the pitching in this entire series has been off the charts, apart from Alek Manoah. Had that rough outing, but the results were okay. Look, man, Eric Swanson is just such a good arm at the back end of that bullpen, and a lot of people were skeptical, including us, about the trade, because Teoscar Hernandez is a bona fide middle of the order bat, and you know that he's good for at least 25 home runs and at least an 800 OPS every season that he suits up for you. And I think it's going to be no different this year. He's going to have that type of production for the Seattle Mariners, but you needed that back end bullpen guy who you know that you could count on to go out and get strikeouts and swings and misses for your bullpen, and that's exactly what Eric Swanson is. And to add to that, you have him for another 3 seasons after this year, so it was a win-win trade for both teams. It addressed needs that both teams had, and I've been just elated with the production that Eric Swanson has provided to the Blue Jays. He's so good. The stuff is nasty. He's got to pitch more often, but he is on pace for a pretty good, fair amount of innings there. So shout out to John Schneider for the bullpen usage lately.
Yeah, and at the start of the year, Eric Swanson wasn't striking out as many batters, but now that's just fully been the polar opposite. He's striking out almost everyone he plays against. And also in that trade, we got Adamako, who is one of our top prospects as well. I believe he's top 10 now, number 9. So that trade, I think the Jays are very, very happy with it. I'm sure the Mariners fans are happy with it as well, despite Teoscar struggling heavily this series and today, going over 4 with 4 Ks. But we'll leave that there as we move on to the last segment, which is the players of the game. We have a hitter and 1 pitcher. We'll probably do a 1A and 1B here, but I'll let you touch on the player of the game for the pitching side, and then we'll go from there.
It's got to be Kevin Gausman, and the entire staff did their job today. You could have given it to either one of the four, but Kevin Gausman, anytime you strike out 13 and go 7 scoreless, it's got to be him. And the defensive play of the game was also on Kevin Gausman, because he was down 3-0 to Julio Rodriguez, and then he picks off Tom Murphy at second base, which, by the way, Tom Murphy, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? That is something that you learn when you're 12 years old, to take maybe a 2-step lead when it's a 3-0 count. And he did not do that. He got picked off, and he was visibly upset. And that was a game changer, because the Mariners were rallying, and they had an opportunity to put some runs on the board there. And Kevin Gausman left him stranded. So shout out to him for the pitching and defensive performance that he displayed today.
Yeah, and the offensive, of course, will be Daulton Varsho for his, which you saw earlier, his lace to right field. And we can also give an honorable mention for any of the bullpen arms, but specifically Eric Swanson for going into the top of the 10th with the ghost runner, the Manfred runner on, and getting out of it without giving up a run, striking out the side. So shout out to everyone. It was a wonderful, wonderful game for the Blue Jays, and one that, you know, maybe they don't win in years past, because they've been winning a lot of one-run games this year, and it's starting to even out, and now their record is phenomenal. They're on pace for tons of wins, and it's a good time to be a Blue Jays fan. So we'll have you for the pregame show tomorrow, and we'll see you then.
Thanks.